Yeah, a little bit too, but most of it's radiation. He's also had a light stroke. He said, the doctor told me he did because when he walks, his left leg is a little bit lazy. Okay. Imagine my dad, he had a light stroke one night. And my mom did tell my mom saw it. She said, what's wrong with your leg? And they put two and two together. I'm dragging with my son over. And you know, we just come to the front. Huh? Oh, it's no, but it's in the front. Oh, I do. I'm a front row guy. I'm a front row guy. I'm a front row guy. In church, I'm a front row guy. I don't hide in the back. I don't call trouble. I just like to be able to think that happen.
Ready, Nico? Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to speak up here because we're live streaming, so I'm going to speak up here. I don't like being behind the podium, but we're going to sit. But welcome. Thank you all for coming. My name is Craig Radzak. I'm the Assistant City Manager with the City of Sanford. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce the elected officials and then city staff, and then we're going to have a presentation by our consultant, Ralph Tellis. And the purpose of this meeting today is to provide you information on the fire assessment fee and how it's calculated. And then most importantly, we want to hear from you. We want to hear your comments, questions about the assessment. So if you could please just hold off all your comments and questions at the end, and you'll be recognized to come up at the end because there may be some questions that you have that Mike can answer in the presentation. So if we just wait till the end and we can facilitate at the end. So I'm going to start with introductions. I introduce myself. Our mayor is in attendance. He's back there with raised his hand, Art Woodruff. He's the mayor. He's one of the decision makers on the fire assessment fee, just so you know. In the very back is Tracy Houchin, our city clerk. I'm bouncing around now. Our city attorney is Lindsay Green up here.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Our fire chief on the front row is Ronnie McNeil. Our finance director is Cindy Lindsay. We got an attorney named Lindsay, so it's a little confusing for staff. Nikki Osborne is right behind Cindy Lindsay. She's our community director. Nico Durham is our digital media specialist with our communications team, and I don't think I missed anyone. So once again, thank you all for coming. You could have been doing something else tonight, but we appreciate you coming. I think this is a good way to get informed about the fire assessment fee, how it's calculated, how it applies, and how it's going to benefit the fire department. Benefit the fire department, and Chief can kind of elaborate on that if we need to. But without further delay, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Michael Burton. He's with Ralph Tellis, our consultant, and he's got a slideshow presentation set up that he's going to go through with us. And once again, if you have any questions, just hold off in the end, and we'll address the questions or comments at the end. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Greg. It's a pleasure to be here. I've got a presentation to give to you. Just as a little background, I'm a senior principal with Ralph Tellis. I've done quite a bit of fire assessments around the state over the years, and the city retained our services to develop a fire assessment program for them, and we've done that. We've had several interactive work sessions with city staff, and then we've had several presentations to the commission, and they determined that they wanted to consider adopting assessment not at a full cost recovery level, but at a lower level, which is equal to the average capital cost over the next 5 years. I'll go into all that in detail here in just a moment. So why don't I just go ahead and get started with the presentation, and if you have any questions, as Greg said, if you could just kind of hold them, make a note of them, and we'll deal with anything you have at the end. So, again, that's me. I'm Mike Burton, and working with me has been doing a lot of heavy lifting on our modeling is a gentleman named Eric Van Malson. He's worked with me over the years with a number of fire assessments, so this is not something that's new to us. I'm going to go over the background, the methodology that we used in developing these assessments, the calculation of the assessments, and the adoption requirements for you. The City of Sanford retained us to develop a non-ad fire assessment program to fund all or a portion of the city's fire department. The city has the option to fund whatever portion they want to, all the way up to the full cost recovery for the fire services, and they opted to fund a considerably lesser amount. They currently fund its fire department through the city's general fund, and a fire fire assessment is a charge imposed against real property to pay for fire services provided by your local government. Is a fire assessment a tax? No, it's not a tax. It's a special assessment, and the similarities are that both generate revenue to pay for services and facilities, and both are mandatory and can be collected on the tax bill. The differences are assessments must provide a special benefit to the property, whereas property taxes do not need to provide a special benefit. And that's why some people have believed that a special assessment, because a lot of people are below the tax threshold with their homestead exemptions and whatnot, they're getting benefit from fire services, but not paying for it. So in a way, it spreads the fire services better over the body of properties that will benefit from the service. Florida law is very specific. There's a case law and there's state statutes, and it's established two requirements for the imposition of these types of assessments. One, the property must derive a special benefit from the service provided. And two, the assessment must be fairly and reasonably apportioned or allocated among the properties that receive that special benefit. It's those two basic requirements. Can y'all see that? Okay, I know it's a little bit small. The costs that have been determined by case law to be included in a fire assessment are traditional fire protection services and first response medical aid, including stabilization and first aid, and basic life support services, which are considered one of the routine duties of a firefighter. EMS or emergency medical services above first responder service cannot be included in the fire assessment, and they include costs for transport, for ambulances, the advanced life support services, where you have intervention with intravenous treatments and other advanced medical treatment. Required exemptions for these include federal, state, or local government-owned properties. That's basically case law that you see there, a case in Blake versus the City of Tampa that was decided, and the common elements of condominiums. So if you have a condominiums and they have a common element with a pool and a clubhouse, that cannot be assessed, but the units can be assessed. Submerged or undeveloped properties where they do not get any special benefit are not included in the assessment. They're exempt from the assessment. Why consider a fire assessment? It's a cost-effective and financially stable means of funding fire services and facilities. The revenues do not fluctuate with changes in property values or other economic variances. Remember in the 2008-9 period when we had a lot of the financial real estate crash in the state and all over the country, the property values declined in Florida about 35%. The general fund revenues declined at the same rate, and it put cities in a bind, whereas if you had a fire assessment, at least a portion of those revenues are sheltered from those kind of economic changes. It provides you revenue diversification, which is also a good thing, and it's a dedicated funding source for the fire department. The revenue raised by the assessment must be used for the fire department. It can't be used anywhere else. And it can be designated to fund all or a specific portion of the fire department. The city commission determines the level of rates and the cost recovery percentage in each year. Now, I'm going to show you in a minute, they've determined what the rates will be in this first year, and they've determined a maximum level they would be over the next 5 years, which includes a 3% increase. And that doesn't happen unless they enact that increase year after year. So the methodology that has been used here is the availability method, which is a simple two-tier rate structure for all residential and non-residential parcels. In Tier 1, it's a flat fee. It's equal per parcel, and I'll explain these in just a minute, a little bit more. And in Tier 2, there's a variable fee per parcel, which is based upon the value of the structures on the parcel. It's administratively easier to maintain than the other commonly used methodology, which is a cost for service method, because it utilizes publicly available data from the county property appraiser. And the assessments do not shift based upon changes in call demand. It does not distinguish between property classifications. It's only a function of whether you're a parcel and the value of the structures on the parcel. In Tier 1, it's called a response readiness availability. All properties, whether they're vacant or developed, are charged a Tier 1 rate. It's a single equal fee per parcel. all parcels in the city benefit equally from the availability of fire service that the city provides on call without discrimination as a property class on a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week, year-round basis. The benefits include availability of immediate response to fire, first responder medical aid to protect the life and safety of occupants, containment of liability for emergency incidents on the subject parcels and the spread of fires to other property, enhanced property value, and enhanced marketability and our ability to develop the property, so therefore it's appropriate for the cost to be spread equally per parcel. Let me just speak to you for a moment outside of this. A fire department provides on-call services. It's basically, you know, an availability cost or a watch standing cost. They're standing watch 24/7 all the time with the manpower, people, and equipment and facilities to be able to provide the appropriate response time for the citizens to be able to get insurance at reasonable rates and to have protection from ability to suppress fires. And if I've talked to a number of fire professionals over the state over the years, and when you talk about calls for service, and you say if your calls were only about half of the calls that they are today, would you lay anybody off? Would you close any fire station? Could you sell any equipment? The answer is no, because you have to be ready to serve those fires when they do occur. You have to have the resources available. So it's a very specific determinant cost that the fire department has to have on call at all times. So anyway, the Tier 2 benefit is the protection from the loss of the structure on the fire. Only improved properties are charged at Tier 2 rate. Improved properties are all non-vacant properties with developed structures, houses, garages, sheds, that type of thing. There's a charge for every $5,000 of structure value, which is not assessed value, just the structure value, not the land, but the value of the structures on the land, as determined by the property appraiser's records. And $5,000 of structure value equals an equivalent benefit unit. And $5,000 is used because the benefit probably doesn't increase by every dollar or every $1,000, but when you get up to the increments of 5,000, it's manageable and there's a recognizable increase in benefit. So that's how it works. So if you have a structure value on your property that's worth $100,000, you would divide that by 5,000 and get the number of benefits units that you would get. That would be how much you would pay for that second tier rate times the rate for the second tier. And I'll show you that in just a moment. Improved properties receive the following benefits in addition to the Tier 1 benefits. Protection from the loss of the value of the structures on the property due to fire by virtue of the ability to obtain fire insurance and to obtain that insurance at attractive rates because of the availability of fire protection services that the city provides. And the protection from the loss provided by the availability of fire protection service provided by the city, their ability to actually respond in a reasonable time with reasonable notice to help suppress the fire before it does too much damage. How it's calculated, let me take a quick drink here, folks. After the presentation of the revenue requirements of the fire department that can be included in the assessment to the city commission, the commission determined to only recover the average annual cost of the capital expenditures in the assessment. And you'll see in just a moment that amounts to a little less than 10% of the total cost of the fire department. This equates to approximately 9.5% of the annual revenue requirements of the fire department, as shown below. The net revenue requirement of the fire department is $22.3 million. That's basically the cost that needs to be recovered for them to continue to be in operation. And the average annual costs are $2.13 million, and that makes the 9.5%. So this assessment is only going to recover $2.13 million as opposed to the $22.3 million. When you look at the average capital cost, you can see there it varies year by year. So it's quite a bit in 2026, goes down, comes back up, goes down, comes back up. But the average annual capital needs are rounded to $2.13 million. And that's the basis for the assessment. And you can see there that in order for the assessment to get the $2.13 million, $2.13 million, which is the bottom line there, the bottom number in that middle column, because of the exemptions and the other costs to the property appraiser, the tax collector, and the consultants and legal fees, we have to include in the rates an amount equal to $2.539 million. If you look over to the right, what that equates to is $35.28 per parcel. No matter how big your parcel is, no matter how small it is, whether it's residential or commercial. And on the structure value, it would be $1.33 per EBU. So if you had 10 EBUs on your property, it'd be 10 times the 1.33, then you add that to the 35.28, and you get the rate. And I'm going to show you what it'd be for an average home here in Sanford in just a second. And that's coming up right now. If you see on this chart, on the shaded area, that's the average value of the structures on a single-family home. If you look over in the right, second column from the end, it'll be $88.48 per year. It's billed per year, but the equivalent monthly effect of that would be about $7.37 a month, is what it would be. And you can see above that, you have a low value of $75,000 would be $55.23 or $4.60 per month on average, and a higher value of $400,000 would be $141 per year, or on a monthly effective basis, about $11.81. Examples of other types of structures are listed right here. You can see those. I'll leave it up there for a minute for you to look if you have any interest in any of those. You have a small apartment complex that would be $354. A larger complex would be $12,800 per year. All the way down to the department store, big box type store, would be $1,200. And you can see that a vacant lot would only be the tier 1, so it would be $35.26. Adoption requirements. The initial adoption requires public hearings to be completed by the end of the fiscal year. The first reading of the fire assessment procedure ordinance was held on July 28th. It does not impose any assessment. The ordinance only establishes the procedure for the initial levy and the annual administration of the fire assessment. It just allows the city to proceed and adopt actually the fire assessment. Second reading and public hearing for the ordinance is scheduled for August 11th, 2025. When that is done, there's no assessment yet. It's just the ability, it's just the framework that allows the city to actually adopt an assessment. When they finally adopt the rate resolution on September 8th, that's when it would become in effect if the city chooses to adopt it on that date. The initial levy adoption of an initial assessment resolution also happened on July 28th. It happened on July 28th, just as the ordinance did. The specific, it specifies the intended rates and revenues to be adopted, as well as the maximum rates. The maximum rates are adopted so the city may adjust rates in future years up to the maximum amount without additional citywide first-class mail notices, just the regular publication notices, like it would be on a water and sewer rate increase. There's a scheduled public hearing for September 8th, and there's direct mail and published notice requirements, which I'll go into right here. The notice requirements include a local advertisement in the local newspaper 20 days, at least 20 days prior to the public hearing, plus first-class mailing of notice to all potential assessed property owners stating the assessment rates and the proposed assessment for that specific property. First-class mail notices must be sent 20 days, at least 20 days prior to the hearing. So everyone in here, if you own property in the city of Sanford, and everyone else who owns property will get a first-class mailing, and it will show you exactly what the proposed assessment will be on your specific parcel or property, or properties if you own multiple properties. The final adoption and levy of the additional year assessments would happen following a final hearing that will be held on September 8th. The City Commission will consider adoption of a final assessment rate resolution to approve and adopt the fire assessment rates for fiscal year 26 and to approve the assessment roll. If the City Commission adopts the final assessment resolution in that hearing on September 8th, the fire assessment for 2026 will be approved and levied. The city will direct bill the fire assessment for FY '26. And will consider a resolution expressing the intent to use the property tax bill collection method before the end of December 25th, which is required to be adopted for it to be collected on the tax bill in 2027 and all the years thereafter. For each year following the initial levy, the city commission will adopt resolutions to approve the rates of the fire assessment and the assessment roll for the forthcoming fiscal year. And a resolution must be adopted by no later than September 15th each year. And that's the end of my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions or any slides back up if you didn't get a chance to look at it long enough.
Thank you, Mike. I got this microphone, so if you guys have any questions, I can bring it to you. And I know there was a lot of information, so feel free to ask any questions. Just raise your hand, I'll bring the mic to you, and we'll do our best to answer the questions. So anybody have any questions, let me know.
I'd prefer to stand up there so that I can be
You wanna
streamed
use
live.
Leon, you want to use the microphone up there?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Prefer to stand up here so I can stream live, first of all, and second of all, to see how many citizens we have here. So we have 7 city officials plus the mayor. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 citizens. Kind of disappointed, but this wasn't well advertised. It's hard to find the door here. Actually, you come out front, the sign says, oh, one more citizen. Sign says, go to City Hall, go this way, and if you go there, I didn't, because I just walked in here, I said I didn't care. But anyhow, I don't think this was well publicized. I don't think the city's really let people know exactly what they're proposing. But be that as it may, I appreciate your time. I have a number of questions, I guess. First of all, I understand when you say this is not a tax. But I can read the dictionary, and the Merriam-Webster dictionary defines a tax as a charge, usually of money, collected by the government from people or businesses for public use. So you can call it a special assessment if you want, but it's still a tax. I don't have a choice. I'm going to have to pay it. All right, call it an assessment. You know, if it walks like a duck, if it talks like a duck, if it looks like a duck, it's a duck. So this is a tax, pure and simple. Call it an assessment if you feel better. Make the city commission feel better. Make the city manager, the city assistant manager, the city people feel better. It's a tax, first of all. Second of all, I do have a question about exactly what value are you using. When I look at my tax bill from my notice from the Seminole County Property Appraiser, I've got 3 different things on there. I've got appreciated building value, I've got just market value, and I've got assessed value. What exactly are you proposing? What value exactly is the city and you proposing that is used to calculate my assessment?
It's the building value.
The depreciated building value?
It's not the assessment value, it's not the market value.
So the depreciated building value, great. Second of all, and I was trying to look at my phone, but I had read through the ordinance from last week when they passed it. And from your presentation here, you're saying that the base rate would be $35.28 and the EBU would be $1.33. Yet somewhere in the ordinance and the things the city published from the meeting of the city commission last week, I got $31.03 for the base and then $1.26.2 for the EBU. So I'm wondering just what it is the city's proposing. I was confused about that. I don't know
if my presentation doesn't include the things that were in the ordinance, that's my fault. But whatever the city adopted in the initial rate resolution is what it would be. Lindsay, do you have that?
I don't have the number in front of me, but the number of $1.27 per EBU sounds about, but it's between those two, right?
Okay, then I apologize.
And if it is that, it's a lower amount what the city's proposing, which is fine. So last year in taxes, my part of taxes from the, what the county takes from me every year, the part that went to the City of Sanford, my part was $713.85. And anybody can go and look it up. I can look all years up. It's all their public records. $713.85. So if we use the just market value of my home, what they're going to ask me to pay additionally next year, in addition to that $713, which is going to go up by probably 3%, is another $130.
Sorry, it wouldn't be the market value, it would be the building value.
Okay, $101 then. That's better. It makes me feel a lot better. Instead of going up $130, $101. So that's what, about 14% my taxes will go up. Now, you don't want to call it tax, I understand, but my taxes will go up. So everybody, especially as citizens, understand that's what they're talking to do. What they're saying is, what the city's saying is, they are unable to tighten their belt. Well, I'm not wearing a belt today, or I'd show you. They're unable to tighten their belt, and now they want you to give them an extra $2 million of tax money because they can't live within their means, which they've done for the last number of years. All right. Let's see. Now, another thing that's in this ordinance is that every year, so next year $101, let's just call it 100. Every year they can raise it without any notice, without any first-class mailing, without any other things outside of a commission meeting. Every year they can raise it another 10%. So this year, $100. Next year, oh, let's say you get $110. Oh, the year after, $121. Oh, the year after, it could go up to $132. Could. I'm not saying they're gonna, but they're allowed to do that without even having to have a public meeting, without having to let you know. You might get that trim notice. I'm assuming you get that trim notice from the property appraiser, which, you know, was written in Greek. I studied Greek, biblical Greek, many years ago. It's like that, the trim notice, so it's hard to understand. I'm sorry, you wanted to say something?
Well, it's 3% that would be applied each year to determine what the maximum rate would be. The board commission wouldn't have to do it 3%. They could do it more in any one year, but they can't exceed that maximum rate.
Can't exceed 10%, right?
They can't exceed what the cumulative effect of the 3% would be on the adopted rates.
From what I read in the ordinance, it was they can change it every year up to 10%.
Okay.
That's how I read the ordinance. Now, I'm not a legal scholar or anything, all right? So perhaps it's all hidden in legal mumbo jumbo.
If that was in the ordinance, then that's
Yeah.
what it was about.
So again, this is, you know, kind of confusing. I just want to be clear that the next city commission meeting, they're going to have the second reading of the ability to do the assessment, but they're not actually going to assess us until September. But after the next meeting is when this becomes law and they actually can assess us if they want. Is that kind of what I understand you were saying?
Yeah, the next meeting will
Second reading.
Next reading will approve the ordinance, which is the framework within which they can then adopt that resolution. And if they don't have to adopt the resolution, and if they don't, then there will be no assessment on September the 8th.
Now, just for your benefit, for my benefit, I took a good look at this, and there's actually something to like about this. Right now, correct me if I'm wrong, let's just pick on poor Old Souls Catholic Church sitting out on 46. That big building sitting out there, they pay no taxes, right? They pay no taxes at all. They got a fire, we got to go there and we got to put it out. So what the city is proposing is they would have to pay some small amount, but only 10%. Why not fund the fire department at 100% of the fire assessment fee? Let us all pay our fair share, including All Souls and everybody else who's not paying now, and then reduce our tax rate by an equal amount. So if the city were to take $25 million and put it in the fire assessment fee, and then cut down the amount of taxes they take in a year by $25 million, there's at least 8 people in the room who would be pretty happy because it would save us a lot of money in taxes. So these are all things that I hope people think about. I think you've answered all my questions. I'm not happy. Again, you know, I'm a senior citizen on fixed income. I'm looking at what? I have to pay an extra 14% next year, not including what the county is doing to me, because, you know, the county is increasing the millage rate by 10%. So next year, your part of the county's part of taxes is going to be 10% more. So 10% more plus the 10% or 15 or 20, whatever it is for the city, they're just taking our money and they're not spending it well. You know how they spend your money? They put in a gazillion dollars bit of turf on Fort Millen Park. Walk in Fort Millen Park, just past the Sanford Museum. If you're on First Street, look to your left. If you're on Seminole, look to your right. There's this beautiful turf. They paid, Mr. Mayor, do you remember what it was that the city eventually paid for that? Was it like $3.5 million? It was a lot of money. Mrs. Lizzie, I don't know if you know. It was a lot of money. They put in a beautiful turf, and it looks nice. Well, it's got brown spots. They're not taking good care of it. Now they want to take some of that turf out where they want to put an amphitheater. Is this good spending of your money? I just don't think so. I'm not at all happy. I hope someone else has have some questions or whatever, something to say as well. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, sir. Did you have your hand up? I'll give it up to you guys. If you want me to bring you the mic, or if you want to go up to the podium like you did, feel free. But did you want to say something? Would you like the podium, or would you like the mic?
Can you bring up the page before the very last page?
Sure. Is this the one?
Where it says that, about the money, are we gonna have an increase in our water bill or an increase in our property taxes?
Neither one. You're gonna have a new assessment. As that gentleman mentioned, it's gonna be a special assessment. And it's not a water bill, and it's not, and your tax, it's not an ad valorem tax. It's a special assessment.
So it's gonna be a totally separate bill.
Yes, it'll be direct billed this first year. You'll get a mail bill, and then if the
And who is
board-
that coming from?
It would come in from the city.
From the city? Okay,
And then next fiscal year, if the city adopts a resolution of intent, which is kind of a technical term, by the end of this year, then they will put it on the property tax bill in the following fiscal year as a separate line item, along with your tax.
right.
And all
So
that.
it is gonna end up on our property tax.
It'll be on your property tax bill.
Okay. As that gentleman was saying, there's a lot of senior citizens. Sanford has a lot of loyal senior citizens that have lived here for a long time. My concern is about what kind of, where are they gonna get the money? They're not getting an increase in their social security. So are they gonna give up their medication or give up their meals? Where are they supposed to get that money? To me, it seems like the reason that we're needing this assessment is because Sanford's growing bigger. The reason they're growing bigger is because people are coming from up north and all over the place and causing our firefighters to have to work harder and pull more calls and stuff like that. To me, it seems like instead of penalizing the loyal citizens here, the people that not penalized so much, but the ones that should be charged for all this extra work by the fire department and firefighters should be the ones that are coming here, imposing and causing all this increased activity. And from what I understand, there are impact fees on new housing, apartment buildings and all this stuff. These are millionaires that are building these subdivisions and they're building these apartments. And I realize they are paying an impact fee, but I was looking, and it's hard to find anything on Google as far as true numbers. But I was looking about impact fees as far as like Kissimmee, Orlando, Lake Mary, and Sanford. And Sanford has the lowest impact fees. Kissimmee has $25,000 was the best numbers, true numbers that I can find. Orlando's $14,000, and I couldn't even find numbers about Sanford, what the true numbers, because they also include county impact fees along with Sanford impact fees. But the low number, which I know is totally wrong, because $5,000 has got to be too low. There's got to be more charges than $5,000 that we're charging for all these new residents. And those are the people that I believe should be charged. So instead of charging all of us loyal citizens, is there a way that we can charge them instead with all the impact fees and taking our meals and our medication away from our senior citizens? Most of the citizens that have been here for a long time in Sanford are getting older, and we are getting to be senior citizens. And that's my question. Is there any way to redirect this assessment so that way the impact fees can cover all this money? How much money are we asking? 20 million?
A little over 2 million, 2.13.
But that's annual,
Yes,
times 5 years.
well, it happens annually, yes.
Right. So that's 10 million. I'm sorry?
Not necessarily gonna end at 5 years. There's no end on this.
I know that.
There's no end, there's only a beginning.
I know, there's always increases. But my question is, can we go a different avenue than penalizing our loyal citizens? And, I mean, we like to welcome people with open arms to come and live here, okay? But when you come here, you have to bring your own food and bring your own clothes, and we shouldn't have to just give you everything. You know, and these impact fees is what's supposed to improve the roads and take care of the police and the fire and pay all the paychecks for City Hall and all the employees here. So is there any way to redirect all of this $2 million a year to the impact fees instead of charging us, which will keep on climbing? And the senior citizens are gonna keep losing more and more money every month out of their check. Is there any way? Does anybody have a suggestion? That's the only suggestion I could come up with.
So, first of all, impact fees
Okay,
can only be used for specific cost caused by growth. So, part of our new fire station that's being built out on East Lake Mary Boulevard is being paid by impact fees for all the development that has happened in that area that requires the new fire station.
okay,
Okay? Impact fees can't be used to pay continual operational costs. So to put it in perspective, you know, back in 1962, when I started living in Sanford, the firefighters got paid a certain amount of money. We cannot say, well, all the people that came to Sanford after 1962 should pay the pay raises for the firefighters that we needed back then.
right,
Okay, so you can't spread the costs that way. The people that have come here and, you know, our houses or our apartments, they're paying the same taxes that those of us that have been here for a very long time are paying to pay the overall operational costs.
well, I realize that everybody needs a raise, okay? The economy is getting better, it's just slow going, and prices are going down, but they deserve a raise. They need new equipment. I talked to Ron quite a bit on the phone the other day, and he was explaining to me, and you know, I was full of fire, and I was mad, and then he calmed me down, and I realized his point of view. I like to look at everything from all different angles, so that way I can be fair with everybody. But I want people to be fair with me too, and that's what I was just hoping, is that more contribution from the newcomers than so much contribution. I mean, they're gonna have to pay the tax too.
Right, so they will
Okay.
be contributing also.
But I was just hoping if the impact fees were higher, then more money, instead of the $2 million needed annually, that it would drop because the impact fees would pay for a bunch of that. I don't know what the monthly amount of people moving here and buildings and stuff, but I see new homes popping up like Tic Tacs. And so I'm figuring, well, if he was paying, like in Kissimmee, $25,000, and I know there's one guy, he's building the same kind of houses here in Sanford. I've been watching them pop up. And if he was paying 25, 25, 25 instead of, I wish I knew an accurate number of how much it is for Sanford. I just don't know the number. And all I could come up with was about $5,000 for the impact fees. Because I don't like to be inaccurate when I'm talking about something.
Okay. Our finance director is saying she thinks it's about $2,500 for a house for police, fire, and recreation.
Okay, because county is $3,200. And the best I could find on Google was $1,600. So she's saying it's $2,500. Well, thank God it's better than what I saw on Google. Okay, but that's so minimal.
Right,
That's so minimal.
So again, you know, our new fire station, we can use impact fees for the first time we buy an engine for there.
Right,
The first engine that goes in that station can be paid with impact fees because that's an addition to what we have that's required for growth.
right,
But every one of those engines that we already have, that we have to replace, either an engine or a rescue about every year.
right,
All of those replacements have to be paid by the people who are already here.
right.
We can't say, new people, you buy the fire engine we need for your houses, but also buy us one too.
I
And
understand.
so, you know, I mean, we're trying to balance this, and I appreciate your comments about, people on fixed incomes, and we are very cognizant of that. We're looking at a couple of things going on. The state is pushing towards lowering the number of hours a firefighters can be on shift, which is going to be a significant operational cost. Once we have to implement that, salaries are going up, and so we really were just looking at what are some options to raise the money we need to do. So that's why we're looking at the fee. Okay?
Well, if we have the impact fees of $5,000 here in Sanford, that's including the county impact fee, compared to Kissimmee's $25,000.
I know Kissimmee's very high.
Okay, and the same thing with Orlando's $15,000. If we could bring it up to $10,000, that would be that much more that could help the firefighters and law enforcement and everybody else here in Sanford. So that way it wouldn't impact us so much, the new citizens coming in. You know what I mean? Instead of us loyal old people being affected so much, instead of maybe it would be $1 million affecting us, and they would pay $1 million in the extra impact fees. Is there any way to do something like that? And just raise these, how do we get the impact fees raised?
Studied impact fees.
The rates just expired, so we need to go out again.
Okay, so we are in the cycle where we can now look at our impact fees again.
Okay, that's what I was
We're in
wondering.
a time
When
period
can we
where
raise the
that
impact
would be
fees?
nice.
Because then that would take the burden off of, penalizing us if we could impact onto the people moving here and then help us out. Then everybody's helping everybody, especially the newcomers.
Yes.
Because I know they're coming. And it's not my favorite because the traffic's getting heavier and everything, but they need to pitch in more, is what I'm saying. And that would help all of us in turn. So, is there any way we could have a hearing about that or suggestions about how much to raise the impact fees?
The impact fees have to be determined based on the actual projected cost of new development. Just like the fire assessment fee had to be based on what does it actually cost us to run the fire department.
Right.
Impact fees, you can't just pick a number. You have to be able to back it up. Another house will cost this much for the fire department, this much for the police department, this much for recreation. So there has to be a basis for how you set those.
I'm going to research about Kissimmee and Lake Mary and Orlando and see what they're requiring per square mile or per population and see how much they are given to the fire department, because that's an important department. The police and the fire are top notch on my list. And if there's any way we can come up with a better number for helping them and the police, because you can't have more people moving here and not have more police either. So everybody needs an increase, not just this fire assessment, but police assessment as well. And I don't want to open the door to y'all taxing me more saying that, but and
well, it's quick, and that was one of the things that's quick. If you look at some of what other cities, Altamont Springs increased their tax rate last year specifically to pay raises for their police department.
yeah.
I think one of either Vito or Castleberry is looking at a tax increase because of the increases they paid. So
Well, I'm strictly
we're all
thinking
sort of
about
facing
this
the same
impact,
challenges.
because if we could get it up from 5,000 to 15,000, that's 10,000 big old
Right, but again,
increase.
you can only use that for things caused by growth. You can't use that for salaries.
Well, that's okay. Anchovy's better than no chovy.
Okay.
May I point out something? That you bring in a good point about growth, and this assessment will come in the first year, and the next year, new growth will be on the rolls, and it'll be recalculated and spread over a broader base, because you'll have more properties on the rolls. I mean, each year as growth happens. So there is that effect. I understand what you're saying about impact fees, and I'm not saying this instead of that. I'm just saying that is an effect that will happen to mitigate the burden on the existing citizens as more and more people become existing citizens. through
Right.
growth. Yeah. So,
Well, the new citizens are bringing good, bigger money than this 5,000 measly dollars. Then I think that would be, even if it's only allocated for your buildings and your trucks and stuff and not, extra on the payroll, then the property taxes that we're paying to the fire department can be used, you know, for more payroll and stuff like that. I don't know, I'm just trying to take one chunk of money and make it stretch, because that's what I have to do at home, is take that one chunk of money and stretch it as far as I can.
We appreciate your comments and time. We wanted to give some other opportunities to speak to. Does anyone else want to address the staff or the mayor?
Well, he's I wanted to just answer Leon's question about the SAW. I went back and looked up my notes. It was, that was through the stormwater fund, because that was part of the project to do this drainage in Georgetown. And the sod, it was an additional $30,000 for the better sod. The $4 million was the total price of the stormwater
And
project.
what was the total for the sod?
I don't know.
I think it was like 350 then. It was 3 something, I thought.
It was in the
Added
hundreds
about
of thousands. I
10%.
think it was a couple $100,000, but it was an additional $30,000 for the better sod.
Some pretty damn good grass.
Yeah, it is, it's pretty.
Thank you, Mayor. Sir, you get up there?
Yeah, thank
Okay.
you. Hi, good evening. I'm Charles Van Horn. I have a question right now. Currently, fire department is being funded from our taxes. Now we want a special assessment to fund the fire department. What happens to the money we're already paying to our taxes? Does that go away, or does that become a slush fund or something else?
It can
I'll
be.
take that one, sir.
All right, Mayor.
And this is really more my perspective as mayor, not a decision that has been made by the commission. In fact, I think it may have been me that suggested less focus on the capital cost, because, and I keep bringing this up, but within the first couple of meetings when I was first elected a while back, we had to do an emergency purchase of a fire engine. And we have gotten where we don't do that anymore, and I want to keep it that way. But there are a couple of ways you can see what can happen here. One would be that we have this pool of money, and you know, Leon's point, it could be an opportunity for a small tax rate decrease. I don't think that will be the top option. Okay, it will free up operational money for raises that we need to give, both, you know, raises for the firefighters, but also having to hire more firefighters to meet the new standards on number of hours. So it's going to end up being a balancing act. If we have this money coming in to cover the capital, and correct me if I'm wrong, we don't have to spend it on capital.
That is correct.
That just sets what the value is.
That is correct.
So we can spend this assessment on salaries or on operations. We set, you know, how much we'll collect based on what the capital is. So I want to make sure that's clear. So it's going to come down to when this gets passed, what if it gets passed, how do we balance out the rest of our budget? Is there an opportunity, you know, the fire chief asked for a couple of things this year that we didn't fund. Okay, we were really supposed to pick up another engine. Yeah, so we put off an engine this year. You know, so it could speed up some of those purchases. He wanted to do some more stuff with training. And those kinds of things, the equipment, the training, the manpower, are what address the rating for insurance. So, long story short, there's not a clear answer. It's really going to come down to what does the commission decide, budget-wise, if we add this income to the budget stream.
Okay, then I said it is sort of an additional fee.
It's clear, yes, it is definitely additional money. I mean, we could have, in fact, a couple of years in a row, we've had commissioners say, let's raise the tax rate. And I've said, I'd really rather lower the tax rate. And we're like, but we can't, I'm not gonna raise it, but I see why we can't lower it.
Okay.
But this gives us that extra $2 million a year to make sure we can cover the capital, which will free up $2 million in our general fund, which could go to any of the other things we need to do.
Thank you for explaining that. That's all.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I will.
Okay.
My name is Bob Martin, and with all respect to all that's here, not a troublemaker, but I wanted to tell you that what we saw on this board right here about the assessment fee is a tax, as the gentleman said. I don't have a prepared speech, so you have to forgive me. I'm just an old country boy. And you can put lipstick on the pig and it's still a pig, and that is a tax. I don't care what you say, that is a tax. And it wasn't assessed, it is an imposed, not voted for tax. And as I understand it, when we get a tax, we should vote for it. I didn't vote for it. Now, understand, I'm a responsible resident of Sanford. I've been in my home for 49 years. I've been in Sanford for 60 years. I love Sanford, and I love seeing my tax dollars spent on these roads and the things that they do in this city. It's amazing. But this is an imposed tax. I have my Social Security. Now, we get a Social Security raise about this much, and this assessment tax is going to be about this much. I just don't feel like it's fair. Now, this is no offense to our fire and our police. I love them all. But the process, the process is what I have a problem with. I think we can all afford $7 a month or whatever. But I didn't vote for this. I didn't ask for it. And like my friend Caroline said, this money can come from somewhere else. And I realize that other than the citizens in this room that are not officials, this is falling on deaf ears, and I understand that. But I had to have my say, and this is an imposed tax, and it's lipstick on a pig. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. There's a couple important meetings, and your voices can be heard once again. Monday, August 11th, right here in this building at 7 o'clock, we're going to have a city commission meeting. And keep in mind, staff and our consultant and the city attorney doesn't have these decisions. We just recommend them to the city commission. The city commission, the mayor, and the 4 commissioners are the final decision makers on this. So you can express your concerns, you can talk in support of it, you can do that at the August 11th meeting for the ordinance, second reading of the ordinance. And there's also another date of September 8th, as Mike said, where they're going to have the hearing on right here again at 7 o'clock, September 8th. So you could have that opportunity to voice your concerns. And if you could, you feel free to contact your commissioner or the mayor before the meeting. You always have that ability to do that. So I wanted to let you guys know that. We really appreciate it. If there's anyone else that has any other comments, we really appreciate you coming tonight. You could have been, or this afternoon rather, you could have been somewhere else, but we really appreciate it. We understand your comments, and we're sensitive to the fixed income and additional monies that you're going to be levied. But we've provided anything else. There's nothing else for this evening. We're going to let you go, and we really appreciate coming. Mayor, did you want to close it out?
I just want to make sure, because I'm not sure it was clearly stated. It's actually on the screen up there. The next week, letters will go out to all property owners. Is that what right? So is that, you know, and I sort of wish that this meeting had been scheduled after that, so everyone will see what the dollar amount is for their property. And I think that's when we will really start to have more discussion on this.
Absolutely.
We'll see what the actual impact is.
And I
be
did
watching
confirm
for that probably by end of next week.
I believe so.
Okay, or the beginning of the next week. Every property owner will get a letter that says specifically what their amount would be.
Is this too far into it to put in an amendment to this proposal? You know, with consideration that we could use impact money?
We can't mix impact fees with this. It's not too late to decide whether or not to do this. So, I mean, if I'm understanding you correctly, we can't say we're going to also do this fee and also raise impact fees. We can't just make that decision without that impact fee study. That state law requires that.
I was just thinking if you raise the impact fees, you could lower this. So that way the senior citizens wouldn't be so affected by it.
But
that's not happening.
we can't have both of those things happen this time around, this year. This is the timing won't allow.
As the mayor said, those are two separate pots utilized for two separate issues. Mr. Leon, I did check the initial resolution, and it is 1.33 EBU. It does say a maximum amount of 10%. However, it is the city's intention to do 3%. And also, I just wanted to assuage or address the initial concern that you expressed with regard to the city doing it automatically every year. Even though it won't be handled via a first-class mail letter, every year, any increase will still come before the city commission, and you'll have your opportunity to be heard every year should there be any increases with regard to the assessment. And I just wanted to address that issue.
So if the intent is to only do it 3% a year, why allow it to be up to 10%? You know, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and it worries me that you say now, I mean, not you, but the city says now, we're gonna limit it to 3%. But if we have to, we can go to 10%. Well, that, you know, I've never seen a government that doesn't expand to fill whatever it has. You know, if we give the city 10%, it's gonna find money to spend on that. You know, whatever it is, it's just gonna expand. So that, I mean, you know, that worries me.
To address your concern, again, each year, you'll have your opportunity. I just wanted to make sure that it's clear that it's not an automatic increase, for every year without you having notice of it and having the opportunity to address your concerns. And I would also say that the mayor and the city commission has been very diligent and thoughtful as it does relate to senior citizens and those existing residents of the city of Sanford, which is why the city has been adamant about reserving 10%. Because remember, so that total capital expenditure cost is over $20 million, and seeking to limit it to that 10%. And that was a very thoughtful part of that process in considering what the ultimate assessment would be to the residents of the city of Sanford. So I just wanted to let you know that that was part of the thought consideration. But I just wanted to address your question, sir.
I have one question. You mentioned that the state has now issued a limitation on the number of man hours, I guess, the firemen can work. Is that on a shift basis?
It's a 42-hour work week.
42 hours?
Yeah, and at this point, it's a recommendation, but we expect that over the next year or two, the legislation will come through to enforce that. Do you want to speak to that, Chief?
The 42-hour work week?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it just got passed and legislate that they did a 42-hour recommended work week, which is 2-week work period. It's for us. Right now they're doing a 56-hour work week. So we would have to hire on more firefighters to be able to cover that 42-hour work week.
So with that, by the way, my dad, I'm Mike Lennon. My dad retired battalion fire chief up in Jacksonville, but so I kind of grew up following the fire department and so forth. I know back in the day, the smaller cities had volunteer fire departments. Has there been any studies done in major cities and counties to do maybe a partial staff of volunteer firefighters to maybe offset what looks like may inevitably be a gap?
They are looking, most fire departments are getting away from volunteers. It's the response times, everything else, they're not meeting those requirements. So that's where they're even getting a harder time to even get volunteers to show up. I mean, I know 3 or 4 that are, I think up in the north side of Florida, and they're trying to hire people just to meet that qualifications.
Well, and I wasn't saying like the whole station, you
No.
know, your EMS is your EMS, but you have a
Work
skeleton,
together.
yeah, you have a skeleton fire crew that was on site, ready to go, and then you'd have an auxiliary percentage maybe, or person, depending on where it is. You know, some stations might be 2, but have people that maybe don't even have to pay as volunteers that can show up with technology that we have today, notifying people at home and where they're at in the restaurant. Just food for thought.
Yeah, and just for your clarification, we're fire and EMS. So a lot of us are firefighter EMTs and firefighter paramedics, and our fire and EMS are together. So when we respond, there's an and rescue to respond, make sure that they have to do it. And for insurance purposes, we have to have so many people on calls for fire calls and all that. If you don't meet that, your insurance rates go higher. So right now, we're currently at 2 because we have so many people in surrounding areas have to compliment with us to be able to meet their needs. So it's hard to get volunteers to show up. It's just nationwide. They're having volunteers.
the dollar difference between the fire ratings 2 and 3? What is an annual cost to the fire department for insurance?
I don't know the insurance costs. I would not know that. There's one's the best for 2, and then you got on down to like a 9. So,
Thank you.
yes, sir.
Okay, thank you again for coming. We'll be hanging around afterwards if anyone wants to ask us any questions afterwards. We really appreciate you coming out again this afternoon. Thank you very much and have a nice evening.
August 11th at 7?
Yes, it's Monday.
Oh, good.